Alright, this time I'm starting off showing the topic that I'm going to be discussing because, of course, it's old school games. So, here are all my Super Nintendo games, and those are the Nintendo games. And this is all Nintendo games, too, which my uncle gave me because he doesn't use his Nintendo anymore. And I want to talk about old school gaming, mostly because without old school gaming, we wouldn't have current gaming. And because, old school games are what got me into current games because when I was younger, I had my Super Nintendo. I had Super Mario World, which is still in my Super Nintendo, which I haven't played in a long time. But I thought, I'll have it next to my TV. I'll play it a lot, and I don't. But Super Mario World, Ninja Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Four Turtles in Time. I don't know. I have to say it like that for some reason because I kind of have OCD. But I have like all my old games. I got Nintendo, with my which I got from my aunt actually, because people get tired of the games if they don't play games a lot, and they give them to whoever wants them. So I got a Nintendo, and I have a Super Nintendo, and I have three controllers for it. And as far as old school games go, and games like just 8-bit games in general, there's something about them that makes them timeless. It's not just Super Mario Brothers is 8-bit, so it's good. It's good because it's just a fun game to play, and that's pretty much all there is to it. It has good mechanics. It's just you point A to point B, and point B is constantly repeating as a castle that Peach isn't in, but point A to point B still fun to get there outside of water levels. Those aren't my favorite. And if you ever notice in Super Mario Brothers in the water levels, in the spaces where you can drop down and die, you fall a lot faster in the water. Just in case you didn't realize that before, you can do that. But I don't know why I keep backing up. But like 8-bit games, they're the foundation of video games. We had simple stuff. You start off with Pong, which I guess was probably, counting the Pong, it might have been 7 bits total. You have 3 bits, 1 bit ball or cube. And it was so simple, but people love it, and it's a fun game. I used to play that when I was younger on the computer, which was obviously a more advanced version. But just up and down is fun to play. And then games got stories, even though they had stories, but not like they do now, obviously. But they're fun to play. Good music, which I'm sure people realized back then it's not as big as it was now, where you can have like this orchestra or whatever, they did the composed the music for this game, or some artist did a song for this game, or collaborated with the people making the game to put one of their songs in the game that's like really famous or something. It was just, we have to make a random beat, and we have to make it good. And I've done a video on video game music where I just talk about it. I talk about video game music, but that is a really important part of the game because just like anything you see, you know, sound, visuals, and as far as sound, as in sound effects, that's all really important. And 8-bit games had that in spades, just as well, if not better. Well, definitely better than certain games that have come out after that. Like there are some games that have been released where it's like, why is this even a game? Like, I wish I could think of the name. I want to say it's Ice Road Truckers, which they talk about a lot, or they used to on X Play. And the game wasn't even finished really, and you could like drive up the side of this cliff, and there was no sound. And they had a scene where the person was driving towards a bridge, and they just went down. The bridge was there, but you couldn't actually drive on it. You just went down and then came up on the other side of the hill, and stuff like that. It's important. No sound. It wasn't a good. It wasn't even a finished game. So I guess good sound and all that stuff kind of doesn't matter anymore. But like Super Mario World, I'm sure if you've played it, you've had songs that you enjoyed, random songs, even if you don't, like look them up on YouTube to find them again. There's songs that you might know if you heard them, you like instantly remember just like that. or you'd remember a specific level, just how it looked or the design. Like I remember this random secret because it gave me a bunch of lives, or it gave me a really good power up that I knew how to use well, or something like that. Especially for Super Mario World, because there was always something you could find. I wish I could remember the actual level, but it's the one where there's a secret area and it's just like hundreds of coins, and I go there all the time because I can get the feather to fly. You can get a bunch of different. You can get a bunch of feathers. So you just like, oh, I can't fly. Go back to that level, get feathers, and then go to the little secret area and just fly around and you get lives all day. And it's really simple, and that's just a little part of the game. But it's always like I like this part mostly because it's kind of cheap, so I can just exploit it because I can go to the level and then just quit right in the middle. But it's fun to play every time because if it was boring, if something's boring, the reward, even if it's like extra lives, so you can just keep playing the game, or some cool power up, sometimes it's not worth it if the journey to it is just that excruciatingly boring. And that's why, you know, we have games today because fortunately, designers back then were making good games for the most part. There were still some games that weren't good 8-bit games. E.T., of course, if I can even count that as 8-bit. Yeah, that pretty much the definition of 8-bit. And that game just nothing good came out of it. It was just a bad game, and it's been the butt of jokes since it was created. And if you don't know, like all the unsold cartridges of that game got like put in a landfill somewhere. I want to say in like New Mexico or something, and it was like thousands of copies because the game sucked so bad. But then you have simple games, Super Mario Brothers. Obviously, this is years later, but even back then you could have a good game on like Atari and stuff. But then we get Super Mario Brothers. Well, I guess we in America didn't really get Super Mario Brothers 2 for a long time. We got the weird kind of Super Mario Brothers 2. I can't think of the whole name. I just remember Doki Doki Panic. And I actually enjoyed that when I was a kid because it had all those weird random things like Luigi jumped high and Peach could float and Toad was fast. And even though that wasn't Super Mario Brothers 2, if you've played it, a lot of the things from that game pretty much became a part of Mario Brothers, like Toad being like the fastest character, stuff like that, and Luigi jumping high. That's not that special, but he's got that, and like Peach, in Smash Brothers, that's her thing. Like she can float for a little bit, and that's from the Doki Doki Panic game being reworked into Super Mario Brothers. And it's a fun game. Like my favorite game on Nintendo is honestly Excitebike. It's so simple. Like everything pretty much looks the same. It's either the blue version of the race or the regular color version of the race. But it's such a fun game. I like the little opening song that I remember by heart because I just like the game. You can make your own levels or your racetracks, and that's just fun. And that was something that most games, especially during that time, you probably couldn't do at all. Or if you could, it probably wasn't as interesting. Although it was pretty basic. You just press the letter and a certain thing came up. I don't see how it could really be worse than that because it was, press a letter, this pops up. But anything's possible. Somebody can have something so simple and perfect, and someone could copy that and somehow make it bad. It happens all the time in movies and games, unfortunately. But 8-bit games, if you haven't been able to experience them for some insane reason, you should. It doesn't have to be an old game. Like I said, 8-bit games in general are just they display the fundamentals of games, but they do it in ways that can sometimes be better than full-fledged games by giant companies. I wish I could think of the name of the game, but there's one that recently came out, Retro City Rampage. That's the one, And that's, completely 8-bit. It has a ton of references to old stuff. Like they have the DeLorean from Back to the Future, and Doc is in it. And he says something. He doesn't say "Great Scott," but he says something like that, and that's just in the demo. And it's really fun. You just go through. You get all these cars, all these powers. It's like Grand Theft Auto in 8-bit, but you know, different than just Grand Theft Auto. It has a lot more dynamics to it, and it's a great game. And Mega Man 9 and 10, whatever they're on right now, Mega Man 20,000. It went back to 8-bit because people didn't enjoy it. Like 7 and 8, which I grew up. When I grew up, I originally played Mega Man 8, and I thought, oh, Mega Man looks like this. Mega Man's tall and he has like his full fledged characters and everyone's like life size, I guess. And then I bought like the Mega Man collection for GameCube, and I was like, 8-bit's not as interesting to me. And I mostly played 7 and 8 because I didn't expect them all to be like that, but it was just 7 and 8, and I was like, oh, I didn't know that. But I guess what I should have got was the Mega Man X collection, which is full fledged height and all that stuff, and then regular Mega Man took it back to 8-bit. And if you haven't played the recent Mega Man games, if you like a challenge, definitely, because they took them back to like the really hard stuff. Like the demos alone, I was like, this is freaking ridiculous. I could barely pass the stupid elephant thing because it would like blow a balloon, and then the second time after you hit it a few times, the balloon would bounce. I was like, this is ridiculous. Then it would suck the balloon in. You'd have to jump over the balloon while you were getting sucked in so you didn't fall down the hole in the ground. It was crazy, but it was fun. And Mega Man, a lot of Mega Man games, like pretty much every game has a good song in it, and that includes Mega Man X games. So, just 8-bit games in general, you should check them out. I'm going to end it now since this is already a 12-minute video. I'm trying to shorten my stuff, but since I started doing topics that I just like, I end up having all like 10-minute plus videos. So I'm ending now. The 8-bit games, check them out. 16-bit, 32-bit, all that. If it has a bit, play that game because those are the fundamentals for all the games we have now, like the Uncharted and Infamous games and Gears of War, stuff like that. That's why we have it. So appreciate well, you probably didn't experience it, but appreciate what other people experienced before you, and what allows you to experience the games you experience now. Because I mean, if we didn't have Nintendo, we probably wouldn't really have games at all because they really brought back games, because the games were like really dropping. But Mario came out and it just really blew up from there. So think about that. But comment, rate, subscribe if you like. Let people know what other 8-bit games out there, or just bit games in general, are worth playing, or overrated, overlooked, all that stuff. Even though it's like the same thing. Just let people know. Thanks for watching.